It was 2:11 a.m., the time when the world is supposed to be utterly silent, and the only thing stirring is your own deep, uncomplicated sleep. But not for me. The piercing chime from my phone cut through the darkness, an alert I'd specifically programmed for this moment, this one terrible possibility I'd spent 2 years preparing for. I didn't even have to look at the screen to know who it was. The notification was tied to the security camera feed on the property I'd built as a trap, a meticulously crafted illusion. I rolled over, propped my head on my hand, and opened the feed, and there they were. My mother, my father, and my brother, a picture of abject misery framed in the harsh, blue-tinged light of the porch. They were huddled together, shivering, their faces pinched and tear-streaked. My mother was banging weakly on the door, sobbing, "Please, it's cold, honey, just let us in. We know you're in there. We need you." They looked broke, desperate, and utterly pathetic. The sight of them should have stirred some lingering ember of filial pity, but it didn't. All I felt was the cold, clinical satisfaction of a plan finally coming to fruition. They thought they had tracked me down, that they had found their golden ticket. Their solution to the mountain of debt and legal trouble they had drowned themselves in. They thought they had breached my fortress, but they hadn't found me. They had found the decoy I'd built just for them. I leaned back against the headboard of my bed in my real home, 1,000 miles away, in a life they couldn't even dream of, and watched the live feed as a low, slow smile spread across my face. I hit the record button. Was I cruel for luring my own family into a desperate, theatrical trap just to expose their true nature one final time and then turn them away? Or was I simply protecting the last shred of my sanity and my future from the emotional vampires who had almost destroyed me? You tell me. To understand why I would go to such extreme, almost movie, villain lengths, I have to take you back to the beginning. The childhood that wasn't a home, but a constant, frantic performance. My parents, Robert and Carol, were not career criminals in the traditional sense. They were something far worse, career pretenders. They lived and breathed an upper-middle-class illusion they could never afford. My father was a perpetual entrepreneur, which translated to one failed, thinly veiled pyramid scheme after another. My mother was the social butterfly, forever hosting lavish parties on credit cards and joining exclusive clubs that bled us dry. From the moment I was old enough to count, I understood the terrible, terrifying secret of our family. We were always one bad month away from losing everything, and my job, my only job, was to be the perfect, obedient, high-achieving daughter to maintain the facade. I was the straight, a student, the scholarship winner, the one who worked 3 jobs through high school and college, not for pocket money, but to pay for the unexpected, utility shut, off notices, and the ever-present threat of eviction. My older brother, Michael, was their golden boy, the charismatic, charming, utterly useless failure who was given every pass. While I was clocking in at the diner at 5 a.m., he was being bailed out of debt by my parents, who would then come to me to cover their expenses. This toxic dynamic reached its peak when I finally graduated from college, the first in my family, with a degree in software engineering and a job offer from a prestigious tech firm. I was free, or so I thought. The moment I got my first substantial paycheck, the requests began, not requests really. Demands, we need to borrow $50,000 for a new business opportunity that's guaranteed to make millions. Sweetie, you'll get it all back with interest. The business, naturally, was a bust. Then it was Michael. He'd invested a massive, high-interest loan in cryptocurrency just before a catastrophic crash. He needed $20,000 to keep the loan sharks from breaking his knees. My parents made it my moral obligation to save him. He's your brother, darling. Family helps family. I paid it. I felt sick doing it, watching my hard-earned future vanish, but I couldn't bear the thought of Michael getting hurt, however much of an idiot he was. The final, crushing blow came 6 months later. My father, in a moment of delusional desperation, had somehow managed to get a mortgage on a crumbling vacation home, which they didn't need and couldn't afford, by forging my signature on the loan documents naming me as a co-signer. When the bank started calling me about the impending foreclosure, I realized the horror of what they had done. It wasn't just money anymore. They had committed fraud using my name. My career, my financial independence, and potentially my freedom were on the line. I confronted them. Their response was not an apology, not even an explanation, but a chilling sense of entitlement. "It's a technicality, darling," my mother had dismissed with a wave of her hand. "We just needed a little leverage. It's your name, but it's our family. You owe us." My father just looked at me with cold, dead eyes and said, "You wouldn't let your parents lose everything, would you? You have the money now, just fix it." That was the turning point. The realization that they didn't just want my money. They believed they had a fundamental, unalienable right to everything I earned. They saw me not as a daughter, but as an ATM with better credit. The love I felt for them, however threadbare, snapped like a dry twig. I paid off the mortgage in full, wiping out my savings entirely, but only after I had consulted a lawyer and had them sign a notarized document admitting to the fraud and absolving me of any future financial responsibility for their actions. It cost me every penny, but it was the price of my freedom. Then I vanished. I didn't just move houses. I executed a full surgical extraction from their lives. I changed my phone number, deleted all social media accounts, and informed my company I was relocating to a different city and working remotely. A significant promotion and transfer that took me across the country. I didn't leave a forwarding address. I cut off all mutual friends. I became a ghost. My life finally was mine. The quiet of my new apartment in a city where no one knew my name was a balm to my soul. I was building my life back, penny by painful penny. I worked non-stop, hoarding my money, investing wisely, determined to create a financial fortress that no one, especially not my family, could ever penetrate again. I was happy, truly happy for the first time, but I knew them. I knew my parents would eventually burn through whatever was left, and when they hit rock bottom, they wouldn't quietly file for bankruptcy. They would remember the daughter who had successfully fled. They would come looking for me. That's why I built the Decoy. It was an exercise in paranoia, a testament to how profoundly they had scarred me. I bought a cheap, run-down cottage in a rural area, 3 states away from where I actually lived, but in the general direction I had initially mentioned I might move. I paid cash and registered it under a shell LLC with an address that led to a maze of virtual post offices. I furnished it sparsely with cheap, worn-out pieces, and most crucially, I installed a single prominent state-of-the-art security camera system pointed directly at the front door. The camera was linked to a burner email I rarely checked, and the footage was set to record on a dedicated cloud server. The only thing I kept active on my personal phone was the silent emergency alert for motion detection at that address. It was bait. I planted small, subtle clues online. An old photograph from the general area of the cottage that I let linger in the background of a forgotten photo album. A slightly misspelled name on a tiny local charity donation from an IP address in that region. Clues only a deeply desperate and thorough search would uncover. It was a digital breadcrumb trail leading them to a hollow house, a perfect illusion of my reclusive new life. I knew they would search until they were truly desperate. I wanted them to hit the bottom first. I wanted them to realize they had nowhere else to turn. I wanted their humiliation to be complete. I wanted to see them in that desperate, begging state, not because I was a sadist, but because I needed the final, undeniable proof that their love was conditional, that I was only valuable to them when I was financially solvent. And that brings us back to that 11 a.m. chime. 2 years of silence, 2 years of hard work, 2 years of peace. shattered by the predictable, inevitable arrival of my past. They were on the porch, utterly defeated. I watched them on the screen 1,000 miles away, cozy in my secure home, drinking a cup of chamomile tea. They had arrived in a battered, filthy car that looked like it had been driven non-stop for days. Michael was leaning against the porch rail, head down, shivering. My father was pacing nervously. My mother, the great social pretender, was weeping uncontrollably, her face a mess of mascara and snot. I let them stand there for 10 agonizing minutes. I needed the full, unedited performance. Then I opened the microphone on the camera system. "Hello," I said, my voice calm, flat, and amplified into a booming, metallic echo through the porch speaker. They all jumped back as if they'd been hit by a physical force. They stared wildly at the camera, relief and terror warring on their faces. "Oh my God, honey, it's you. It's really you," my mother cried, rushing closer to the lens. "Thank goodness we're freezing. Please let us in. We've been driving for days. We need help. We're in trouble, terrible trouble." "What kind of trouble?" I asked, keeping my voice utterly devoid of emotion. I noticed the small, almost imperceptible way my father nudged my brother, a signal. It's the house, darling," my father started, his voice a practiced tremor of sorrow. "The house in the city, we lost it. We've lost everything. We have nothing left. We just need a place to stay for a few weeks, just until we can get back on our feet. We need to borrow a little money, just a small little loan to start over, sweetie. A small loan, Robert, like the one you took out using my forged signature," I countered, the calmness in my voice making the accusation sound like a death sentence. The illusion of my father's sorrow shattered. He went rigid. "Now listen here, you ungrateful girl," he snarled, dropping the pathetic act. "That's family property. We raised you. We deserve a slice of what you've made. You're rich now, aren't you? You wouldn't even miss it. You abandoned us. You owe us this." My mother quickly took over, realizing his outburst had been a mistake. "No, Robert, stop. Honey, don't listen to him. He's just stressed. Please, darling, we haven't eaten a real meal in days. We'll be gone in a week, I promise. Just the money for a hotel and a plane ticket and we'll leave. We're sorry for the past. We are so sorry." Her apology was too frantic, too self-serving to be genuine. It was a means to an end. Then came Michael. He stepped forward, his eyes glazed with a mixture of shame and fury. "Look, sis," he whined. "I just need a loan, a big one. The guys I owe are serious this time. They know where I used to live. I need to disappear. You have to help me. I'm your brother. If you don't help me, I could actually get killed. You wouldn't want that on your conscience, would you?" He was trying to weaponize my guilt, the old trick. So that's the situation I was in. They were literally at my Decoy doorstep, having tracked me down through a labyrinth of fake clues, exposing themselves not as a loving, desperate family, but as a predatory pack of entitled financial parasites. They were switching between begging, outright demanding, and weaponizing my love for them. I had spent 2 years in complete solitude, mourning the family I wished I had, and now they were back, trying to claw their way into my life, and more importantly, my bank account. Before I tell you what happened next, the final, undeniable moment of the trap snapping shut, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have opened the door and let them in out of some deep, ingrained sense of obligation? Would you have given them the money just to make them go away? Or would you have held the line and let them face the consequences of their actions? I took a deep breath, the chill from the screen finally reaching me. This was it, the moment I had built the fortress for. The camera was still recording. I looked at their faces, at the desperation that was now laced with a growing, ugly impatience. They expected me to relent. They expected the old me, the dutiful, self-sacrificing daughter, to crumble and open the vault. I need you all to listen very carefully, I said, my voice cutting through their miserable chorus. I know why you're here, and I know the real reason you found this house. I paused, letting the silence hang heavy. You found this house because I wanted you to find this house. You found a breadcrumb trail that I specifically laid out for you 2 years ago. Their faces went slack with confusion and a dawning horror. My mother's wailing stopped instantly. What are you talking about, sweetie? My father stammered, looking frantically around the empty porch. I'm talking about the fact that I knew you were going to lose everything. I continued. I knew you wouldn't stop until you found me. So I built this house, this property, this perfect illusion of my life as a trap. This is a decoy, a test. Michael finally lifted his head, a genuine confusion in his eyes. A test for what? A test to see if you would show up here full of remorse or full of entitlement. I said, leaning closer to my phone, wishing I could look them straight in the eye. And in the last 15 minutes, you have all confirmed exactly what I have always known. You don't love me. You love the idea of my money. You are here to extort, not to reconcile. You have begged, you have demanded, and you have even tried to guilt-trip me with a threat on Michael's life, all while standing on the porch of a house I bought as a literal prop to get this exact reaction. From you, my father started to shout. That's insane. You're crazy. We are your family. No. I countered, the volume rising. You were my family. Now you are just 3 people standing on the porch of a stranger's property. I gave them a moment to absorb the crushing realization. And here is the final piece of information you need to know. The house you're standing at, it's not in the city I work in. It's not even in the same region. You drove hundreds of miles to the wrong place, and the woman who bought this house, she lives 1,000 miles from here in a state you will never find. You have spent your last ounce of energy, your last bit of money, and your last shred of dignity to find an empty house. My mother let out a small, broken sound, more a gasp than a cry. She looked down at the battered car, then at the empty woods surrounding the house, and the reality of their failure finally hit her. The camera is recording every word of this interaction. I stated, my voice like ice. I have it all, your admissions of past fraud, your present demands, and your complete lack of genuine concern for my well-being. This recording is not for YouTube. It is for my lawyer. It is the final insurance policy against you ever trying to come near me, my career, or my finances again. I heard my father whisper a single foul curse. The anger was gone, replaced by a deep, hollow fear. They knew they had been thoroughly and expertly outmaneuvered. Consider this my last word on the matter. I concluded. The property is listed for sale. You have exactly 1 hour to vacate the premises before I call the local authorities for trespassing. Do not contact me again. Do not search for me again. If I hear one more word from any of you, the recording, along with all my previous evidence of fraud, goes straight to the district attorney's office. You chose your path. Now face the consequences. I waited for one long, silent beat. Then, without another word, I disconnected the microphone and shut down the live feed. The silence in my own room was profound. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel elated. I felt a tremendous, exhausting sense of finality. The war was over. I sat there for a long time, staring at the blank screen, the chamomile tea growing cold in my hands. The next morning, I checked the dedicated email for the camera. There were no new motion alerts. They were gone. I had my lawyer contact the real estate agent immediately. The house was to be sold and the LLC dissolved. It took 3 months, but the property was finally off my hands. The proceeds from the sale, however small, went into an educational fund for a charity. I wanted no profit from the lie. The aftermath was quiet, which was exactly what I needed. I never heard from them directly again. I later learned through an old, third-hand acquaintance that Michael had indeed gotten into serious trouble and was forced to leave the country. My parents, completely out of options and resources, were forced to declare bankruptcy and lost everything they had left. They were last living in a tiny rented apartment, dependent on government assistance. The truth is, I don't feel guilty. I feel free. I gave them every chance, and they chose their greed over their child every single time. My fortress wasn't built of concrete. It was built of boundaries, evidence, and the courage to finally say no. What I learned is that sometimes the only way to save yourself from drowning is to stop holding onto the people who are dragging you under. You have to cut the rope. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do, but it's the only path to survival. My life is now a testament to that freedom, secure, financially stable, and most importantly, peaceful. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever had to make a painful decision to protect your peace, please like this video. Subscribe for more stories like this, where people fought back against impossible odds, and share your final thoughts on this whole mess in the comments section. Did I do the right thing? I'll see you all in the next story.